Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. 8 scents that define the old money aesthetic. And as that name suggests, we're talking about an upscale style, a wealthy style. However, this is old money. This is my family has had money for generations. We're comfortable with it, and we don't need to prove anything to anybody. So it's going to be a high quality look, but it's not going to be an ostentatious look. We're not going to need to show everyone how wealthy we are because we're already comfortable with it. So it ends up looking more casual, more laid back, high quality, but it has a minimalist air to it as well. People like Princess Di, the Kennedy family have really embraced that look. And quite frankly, so have millennials. If you're between the ages of 30 and 45, millennials and minimalism are often culturally linked. And even though I am not a millennial, I absolutely love that look. It's a very classy, clean, elegant look. And the fragrances we're talking about today are going to reflect that style. Fragrance number 1, this is H24 Herbe Vive from Hermes. And no house embodies this old money aesthetic better than Hermes because number 1, it's a very minimalist house. It's always been a minimalist house. But number 2, it is not a try-hard house. In 2021, as fragrances were getting sweeter and sweeter, it was pretty obvious. Hermes released the H24 line, and the H stands for herbs. So this line is herbal, vegetal, and green. Not surprisingly, this does open with herbal notes, and it actually opens quite rich and quite green. You really do have a green feel. Then you get a pear note, and it starts to become quite fruity, and it's a shock to your system because it's been so green, and then it changes really quickly. And then after a while, the Fizz Cool, which is a new aroma chemical, it's very innovative. What you're getting with Fizz Cool is fresh, cool, and herbal without being minty. Now, I've seen a lot of people describe it as minty, but I read this prior to trying this aroma chemical, and I was thinking, how are they going to do it? And they did do it, because it really doesn't feel minty, but it does feel all the other things. It's definitely got a cool air to it. So not surprisingly, I'm suggesting that this would be a really good summer fragrance. In fact, it's one of the best summer fragrances that I've tried. Maybe, it's right up there with Neo. It's very fresh and very green, and it has a cooling agent. It's difficult to judge performance because I've only been wearing it in the winter. Although so far, I would say the projection is average. The longevity is okay. So it's not blowing me away with the performance. However, I do think it would do a lot better in warm weather, and I think that's what it's designed for. I think it'd be a really good fragrance to wear if you're on your yacht wearing your boat shoes and your white shorts. Yeah, I think it would work really well. Fragrance number 2 is Eau Intense Vetiver by Hermes, and Vetiver is a great minimalist note, and this is a really nice, deep and dark vetiver fragrance. It's a citrus aromatic, so it opens with lemon, bergamot, and grapefruit, the typical citrus notes, but the aromatic quality is different. Yeah, there's some geraniums, there's a little bit of green there, but it's really about the Szechuan pepper, and Szechuan it's not like black pepper at all, which is fresher. Szechuan pepper it's hard to describe. It almost has like a smoky, peppery feel to it. And then there's a lot of woods in the base highlighted with vetiver. It is a vetiver fragrance, but Szechuan pepper really is the star of the show here. The only problem with this fragrance is if you don't like Szechuan pepper, you won't like the fragrance because it really does focus on that a lot. But the performance is really good. It is quite a pleasant fragrance. I do like it. Lasts a long time. Definitely minimalist and definitely old money. Fragrance number 3, this is Prada's Amber Pour Homme, and I really do think the House of Prada also fits this style, this aesthetic. It is, I wouldn't say minimalist, but it's definitely quieter and more reserved, and the reserve is an element that comes from having old money. There is a conservative quality to it, and I do think this fits really well, particularly this line, the Amber Pour Homme line. Jeremy Fragrance always said that this smelled like very expensive soap, And I think he's right. It's a little bit sweeter than this type of soap that I would come to expect, but it is there. There are two resins and a little bit of vanilla that create amber, so it's no actual amber note. There's many different kinds of freshness, focusing mainly on the saffron, which is a spicy freshness. There's three fresh floral notes. There's orange blossom, neroli, and geranium. And then there's, the citrus freshness. There's two citrus notes here. Add some musk, and then you've got very expensive soap. I think this works. Fragrance number 4, this is Lalique pour Homme, and this is a very woody fragrance. It's often compared to Bois de Portugal, which means Portuguese wood. That's a Creed fragrance. So yeah, a woody fragrance works in this because it's somewhat conservative. It doesn't project too much. And this is actually a really pleasant fragrance at a really good price. This is in the $40 range. So there are a lot of citrus notes in this. There are 5 of them. And there are 3 aromatic notes and only 2 woody notes. But those woody notes really take charge, especially the cedar. You get cedar more than anything from this. There's also sandalwood. And the sandalwood combines with the iris to give it a powdery quality. There's a little, people have called it barbershop. I mean, there's certainly, it's got the lavender. It's got a little bit of a barbershop feel, but what I get from this more than anything is the heavy wood. So it's kind of a strong fragrance. I mean, it would have to be. Bois de Portugal was Frank Sinatra. He was a very macho guy. That was his fragrance of choice. But yeah, for the money, this is a fantastic fragrance. And I remember the first time that I actually noticed the iris. It's really good iris for such an inexpensive fragrance. I was really surprised. Fragrance number 5, this is Eau Sauvage by Christian Dior. This is from 1966. I didn't want to talk about this fragrance again because it's twice in the same month. I never do that, but I made an exception because this fit the aesthetic so perfectly. And this, oddly enough, has a very loose connection to the house of Hermes. Jean-Claude Elena, who created Terre d'Hermes and Jardin de Nil and was the perfumer for Hermes for 13 years, his hero, the person he looked up to, was the perfumer for this fragrance. His name was Edmund Rudnitska. And so that kind of minimalist, clean aesthetic transferred between the two, and that's what this really does embody, even though it's Dior. But it is Dior from the mid-'60s, so it's an older Dior. But this fragrance is really beautiful. It's very, very fresh and very lemony. You're going to get lemon and bergamot, but you pick up the lemon. There are 4 aromatic notes with oak moss and basil coming through the most, and then a woody base with vetiver leading the way. However, what I like about this the most, aside from the bottle, which I love, is the fact that the performance is really good. For a very fresh fragrance, yeah, you're gonna notice it projects really nicely. Fragrance number 6, this is Bvlgari pour Homme. We're back to woody again, and this is a very woody fragrance. Unlike Lalique pour Homme, this one has 4 woody notes. It's rosewood, gaiac wood, cedar, and vetiver. So it is very woody, and it comes off as very sharp. It's got 3 aromatic notes, a couple citrus notes, some spicy notes, but it's really the woods in this that are the star. Again, this is very clean. This would be a great office fragrance, but it's also quite minimalist. The thing that I like about it, though, is the tea musk combination that was very popular when this came out in the mid-'90s, which creates a soothing feel. That originally comes from Silver Mountain water, so woody with a little bit of a tiny bit of a Silver Mountain water twist, at least as far as those notes are concerned. Fragrance number 7, this is Reflection Man by Amouage, and this is a woody floral fragrance that really projects. This is a gorgeous fragrance, and I think the floral element really works for this style because this is a powdery style. There's a lot of iris here. Yes, there's some white florals, there's jasmine, and then there's neroli, but for the most part, it's the iris that really pops out. It's very clean, and you get the powderiness of the iris with the sandalwood, and it's quite powdery. There are a lot of woods in this aside. There's a lot of cedar. And then there's a rosemary note, which really makes it for me. That was Napoleon's favorite note, by the way. He was obsessed with rosemary, which gives it kind of a minty feel that sort of pops through the iris and the florals. Lovely fragrance, really strong, clean, definitely Amouage would be a an old money house. Fragrance number 8, this is Hugo Boss Reversed. Not the kind of fragrance, it's a fairly inexpensive fragrance. Anything in this canteen style tends to be quite inexpensive, but the scent itself, even though the aesthetic is not there in the bottle, the scent itself really does live up to a really nice, clean, classy aesthetic. It's a citrus aromatic, and it's a pleasant one. Again, it has rosemary, opens with a grapefruit feel. Then you get the rosemary, a nice, smooth vetiver base, reasonable performance, definitely more of a summer fragrance. People have compared this to Elysium by Roja Parfum. That's a bit of a stretch, but it is a really nice fragrance. It's not quite as fruity as Elysium, but it's still really good. Performance is average, but it is a summer fragrance, and it's quite inexpensive. So this is a bit of a different video because not a lot of sweetness. I mean, if Amber Pour Homme is the sweetest fragrance on the list, that's a different video. And this was a different video because it is kind of minimalist. It is kind of pared back. And anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.